tried to silence him. They erased his name. But he rebuilt from nothing. He fought every algorithm. They tried again and failed. Now he's back, stronger. From blackout to spotlight, he's at the White House, at the top of his game. Franchi lives.
You are about to enter another dimension. The dimension of truth, unfiltered and uncensored. Welcome to the Raw Feed with Gary Franchi.
Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, coming to you live from the heart of America. Unfiltered truth to millions on YouTube. Hit those donation links below. Every contribution powers our gear. Every contribution keeps the party going. Help me help you. Hit those donation links. YouTube channel memberships. Special acknowledgement in the fellowship. Your super chats keep me standing. Your Rumble rants fuel every round.
Say hello to super chats.
Spread the intel. Every repost extends our reach.
Super chats fuel this spectacle. Your Rumble rants give me strength.
24/7 members-only community, behind-the-scenes discussions.
Connect with fellow patriots.
My mama always said, life is like sharing the truth. Text this stream to your friends.
What if I told you the app is real? Download the Next News Network app. Android users, take the Google Play path. iPhone users, App Store awaits.
Hey, what's up? It's me, your favorite YouTube news guy. Did you hear what happened in the Washington Post today? Ho, ho, ho! Yeah, they had a Zoom meeting to announce significant actions across the company. And if you think that sounds like corporate speak for mass layoffs, you'd be absolutely right. Welcome to the Raw Feed, where we cut through the noise and deliver the truth the mainstream media refuses to tell you. Before we jump into the news, let's look back at this day in history. February 4th, 1789. What happened on that day? Well, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States by the Electoral College. Washington's vision of American independence and self-reliance continues to inspire the America First movement today, reminding us that true leadership means putting your country before special interests and foreign influence. Speaking of leadership, President Trump's administration is making moves that would make our founding fathers proud. Will legacy media crumble under the weight of their own bias and irrelevance? Trump is securing America's future through strategic initiatives that guarantee our independence from hostile foreign powers. We're going to break down how the administration just launched a game-changing coalition that puts America's economic security first, and why this move has globalists scrambling to maintain their stranglehold on critical resources. But the real bombshell today involves newly released documents that expose the depths of corruption among elite circles. High-profile figures are now scrambling to explain away damning evidence, with some claiming to have no recollection of photographic proof. That's right, billionaires. Photographic proof showing them, sorry, my alarm went off, showing them in compromising situations. One specific tech billionaire is desperately trying to distance himself from explosive allegations involving international schemes, but the evidence just keeps mounting. We'll show you exactly what these powerful people do not want you to see. Meanwhile, the battle for election integrity is heating up on Capitol Hill, and the numbers are staggering. Yes, 83% of Americans support common sense voting requirements, yet establishment politicians on both sides of the aisle are working overtime to block legislation that would ensure only citizens can vote in American elections. One senator is calling out the entire system, claiming there's evidence that multiple sitting members of Congress weren't even legitimately elected. The pushback against basic voter verification measures reveals just how desperate the swamp creatures are to maintain their grip on power. And the resistance to Trump's immigration enforcement has reached dangerous new levels, with radical activists now resorting to tactics that would have been unthinkable just years ago. ICE agents are facing unprecedented hostility as they work to secure our borders and remove criminal aliens. The left's desperation is showing as they deploy increasingly violent rhetoric against law enforcement officers who are simply doing their jobs. One shocking incident captured on video shows the true face of the so-called peaceful protesters. And their language will absolutely disgust you. What's particularly revealing is how the establishment media apparatus is collapsing in real time. Major newspapers that spent years pushing anti-Trump propaganda are now hemorrhaging staff and struggling to stay afloat. The American people have spoken with their wallets, rejecting biased reporting in favor of honest journalism like you see here at the Next News Network, journalism that reflects their intelligence. This massive shakeup in the media industry represents a fundamental shift in how information flows in our country. The contrast could not be clearer. On one side, you have President Trump delivering concrete results for American workers and families, securing our strategic interests and keeping his promises to the American people. On the other side, you have a crumbling establishment, desperately trying to maintain relevance while their scandals multiply and their credibility evaporates. Today's stories illustrate perfectly why the Raw feed exists. While corporate media focuses on palace intrigue and manufactured controversies, we're here to show you what is really happening behind the scenes. From the boardrooms of failing newspapers to the halls of Congress, from international corruption networks to street-level resistance against law enforcement, we're going to connect the dots that others just won't touch. The American people deserve the truth, and that's exactly what we are going to deliver. So stay with us as we expose the stories that matter most to your family's future and our nation's security. Welcome to the Raw Feed, and let's welcome you to the show. Exile the Knights of Malta. Karen Finley. Bill's Rules. Deborah Gomez. Pothead Kenny. Pam West on X. Hit that reshare, Pam. Who else is here? Tyson, Melissa, James, Roger, Thacker in Grand Rapids. What's up? Samsung Galaxy on his phone. Good to see you. James, sorry. Jerome is here. Hillbilly without a hill. I love it. Crin Lynn. Sure you in the house. What's up? Melissa Skinner. The gang is all here tonight. And let's see if we can hit that goal of 100 in Super Chats. That is always our hope. And you guys always, well, most of the time, make sure we get there. And I love you guys for it. The whole crew does. And we're just happy that you're here. But we got some news to digest tonight. So let's just jump right into it because we're going to get to the Epstein stuff. Don't worry. We're going to get to that critical summit that happened this morning. But first, we got to talk about what happened at the Washington Post. Buckle up. The Washington Post just delivered a brutal reality check to their own newsroom. Over 300 staff members are getting pink slips today. While legacy media crumbles, there's only one platform that's absolutely dominating the information war, and the establishment is panicking about what this means for their narrative control. You see, this isn't just about newspaper layoffs. This is about the complete collapse of the Democrat propaganda machine. When the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos' personal political weapon, can't even keep the lights on, that tells you everything about where Americans are getting their real news right now. The next news network. You see, these aren't just job cuts. They're admissions of defeat. The same outlets have spent years lying about Russian collusion, covering up Hunter's laptop, and pushing every anti-Trump conspiracy theory are now facing extinction. Meanwhile, did you hear this? X, yes, formerly known as Twitter, has become the #1 news source in over 140 countries. The information revolution is here, and the gatekeepers are being obliterated. And speaking of America's strategic independence, there is a critical development every patriot needs to understand right now. This breaking news flew under the radar on January 5th of this year. Did you know the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities? Yeah, this is not just government spending, it's a declaration of intent. You see, America needs uranium, domestic uranium, and it needs it right now. The U.S., if you didn't know, consumes 50 million pounds of uranium annually, but produces only 5% domestically. You know what that is? That's a national security nightmare. While legacy media focuses on their own collapse, smart Americans are positioning themselves in the uranium sector. I'm talking about atomic minerals. They are leading the charge with strategic assets in Wyoming's uranium-rich district. As America rebuilds its nuclear independence, uranium demand will skyrocket. Now, the Department of Energy contracts prove this is not speculation. It's really just inevitability. Every day that we delay domestic production, we remain vulnerable to foreign manipulation. Atomic minerals represents your opportunity to profit from America's uranium renaissance. Visit the link down below for your exclusive briefing to secure your position in America's energy independence. Now, back to the media meltdown. This is what makes it even more delicious. The timing of the mass layoff comes right after Trump's historic victory, right after Elon Musk proved that citizen journalism destroys corporate propaganda every single time. The Washington Post's own election coverage basically became their obituary. When you can't compete with the truth, you can't compete at all. Check this out. On a day Jeff Bezos sacrifices the soul of the Washington Post to lick the outsized ass of the village idiot, a throwback day to the Catherine Graham family handed him the newspaper, thinking money is all it takes to keep the flame of journalism burning. Graham sells to sell the Post. This opening sets up the controversy. Now let's see how the media analysts are breaking down Bezos' real motivation behind that acquisition. You don't buy the Washington Post for sports coverage, you buy it for influence. Timcast News writing, Jeff Bezos consolidated the Post to stay relevant inside Washington's power ecosystem, not to preserve local reporting.
There's decline in certain sports, but I do think it's just they lost a bunch of subscriptions. Like Bezos bought the Washington Post to have more influence on Washington politics because that's the paper that they pay attention to typically in Washington. Although we were talking about earlier, Trump loves the New York Times. He hates it, but he wants positive coverage in the New York Times more than any other paper. But like that's why you buy the Washington Post. So like sports, local reporting, like the shift to national news, like it's clearly Bezos like consolidating that paper to try to make it viable. And it is funny that the Democrats are the ones who kind of ruined it by canceling all their subscriptions, throwing a little hissy fit.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Democrats have a history of shooting themselves in the foot. But I do think that this does speak to the fact that there was a time where everybody in the country would subscribe to one of the major papers, right? Whether it be the Times or maybe the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post here. But the fact that people go to the internet now, like no one goes to pick up the newspaper anymore, and I think that maybe there are people out there that are like, oh, I still like the crossword puzzles, but otherwise, like people just go to. I mean, why would you go to a news organization and pay for their product when you can go to X and get it from some, one of the journalists that wrote it will put it up on their page, or maybe you like a particular journalist, so you go to their Substack. Or
you go to the next news network and you follow us. Now, that influence angle gets changed immediately, but here's some pushback suggesting Bezos got fed up with his own newsroom approach. Good journalists, even Bezos, got tired of how the Post writers were just political hacks. Opinion on the Washington Post. The hard truth: Americans don't trust the news media. A note from our owner. A note from our owner, Jeff Bezos. Personal criticism side, let's look at the hard numbers driving the cuts. The financial reality is brutal. The newsroom is shrinking. The business model is the story. Hundreds of journalists are being laid off as a major newsroom resets its structure, cutting local, international, and sports coverage after annual losses topping $100 million, following an earlier 4% workforce cut. So here we have one of the richest men in the world. Yeah, the guy that owns Amazon, got his own rocket ship company rivaling Elon Musk, can't even keep the Washington Post running. I mean, think about that. The business case is clear, but here's what actually is getting axed. Yellow Journalism Post tries cost-saving maneuvers, eliminating sports department and reduces overseas journalists, according to the Associated Press. With departments being eliminated, the layoff announcements start hitting, and critics are already declaring victory. Vince Langman, Washington Post, is laying off 300 employees in a major cost-cutting move today. Apparently, fake news doesn't sell anymore because X is the new media. Remember this headline? Dawn of a new Trump era. Big win may give license for radical change. Harris says, fight that fueled her run endures. The new Trump era. And we're all living in it now. Thank God. The gloating continues as more details emerge about how staff are learning their fate. Yeah, the memes make themselves. The Washington Post laying off 300 staff. Everyone's been asked to stay home and log into a Zoom webinar. Imagine getting laid off on Zoom. They can no longer compete after X became the #1 news source in over 140 countries. Why? Because we are the media now. Next News Network has been running on YouTube since 2012. That's how long we've been here. Long before Elon Musk decided to buy X. We have been pushing and at the forefront, pioneering the new media since 2012. Even before that, my first YouTube channel, 2006. I had other shows that I had produced, other formats. The Reality Report, maybe some of you remember that. Early election coverage, live panels, streaming. I mean, we were the first to do it. And we laid the tracks. Now people riding the rails. Speaking of how the news broke, here's how the official word went out. This was Benny Johnson's post this morning. Mass layoffs expected at the Post today. Staff's been instructed to stay home for a Zoom meeting announcing significant actions across the country. This is what was written. Dear all, we will be announcing some significant actions across the company today. We're asking everyone to stay at home this morning for a Zoom webinar at 8:30 a.m. Eastern to share the details. We'll be sending a detailed invite later this morning. Please make every effort to join. Thank you, Matt and Wayne. Yeah, they don't want everyone showing up to work and, maybe having a fit. Ironically, while we're covering the Post struggles, they're still reporting on their other closures, but there might be some confusion. Washington Post even posts this. I think they're shutting it down because they can't fill the seats. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had that to say about Trump's closure of the Kennedy Center. But Senator Josh Hawley denied the closure was related to that and said it was to upgrade the space. Ironic. Shutting it down, can't fill the seats. Exactly what's happening at the Washington Post. And looks like we got this from the Loftus Party, clearing up any confusion about the Washington Post.
Money thing, and when you're actively throwing piles of money onto a fire, you stop. Like I was laughing out loud when I found out the Washington Post had a sports section.
I know.
Like, who's like, oh my gosh, I have to catch up on last night's ball game. Hand me the Washington Post. Let's see what happened with local sports team. My God, the Redskins. Can we do something about that name? I can't bear to read it. It's horrible. Then they had a big uproar because they weren't going to go to cover the Olympics. And that's like their only hope of ever getting laid, right? You show up at the Winter Olympics, you can claim to be on a team. Like, you don't write for the Post. No, I'm a luge guy. I'm a luge guy.
I'm the bottom man, I'm the luge guy.
Yeah, the Washington Post having a sports section is hilarious. Get rid of it. It's as useless as a one-legged frog in a butt kicking contest. Get him gone.
And that's exactly what happened. They got axed. So here's the beautiful irony. The same newspaper that coined democracy dies in darkness is dying in broad daylight. While they were busy trying to destroy Trump, X, and independent media like us, they ran hit pieces on me right after the 2016 election. Front page news, as a matter of fact. But they can try all they want. We are still busy destroying them. 300 jobs gone, and that's only the beginning. The information war is over, and we won. You see, the mainstream media's monopoly on information is officially dead and buried. When Jeff Bezos can't even keep his propaganda rag profitable, you know the American people have completely rejected their lies. See, this is what winning looks like, not just politically, but culturally. We're the media now. They can't stop what's coming. Every pink slip in the Washington Post is a victory for truth, a victory for America first, and a victory for every patriot who refused to believe they're garbage. The revolution will not be televised because we don't need their permission anymore. So do you think this is just the beginning of the mainstream media collapse? Let me know in the comments. While you're at it, check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real journalism. Let's go. Let's go. We're just getting started on the Raw feed tonight. And you are too, James Fay. $10 in the jar. What's up? Thank you, James. Kicking off the Super Chats for this February 4th. Okay, we're going to reset. We're going to start over. We're going to get to our second topic. Big news, actually. And this is actually more news completely under the radar. No one's really talking about this. I woke up this morning to this press briefing, this summit happening, and it's pretty wild. So we're going to get into the details of what happened. We've got the video and what it means for you and what it means for the United States, really, at large. So don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. While you were sleeping, Trump just launched the most aggressive economic warfare campaign against China since the trade wars. 50 nations, one goal: break Beijing's chokehold on the minerals that power everything from your phone to our fighter jets. But China is not going down without a fight. And what they're planning next might just shock you. See, here's what this means for you personally. You see, every electronic device you own, every electric vehicle, every piece of military hardware defending this country, it all depends on rare earth minerals. And right now, China controls 80% of global supply. They can literally cut off our economy with the flip of a switch. Your job, your retirement, your kids' future, all held hostage by Beijing. Now, politically, this is Trump delivering on his promise to end American dependence on hostile nations. But socially, this coalition represents the biggest realignment of global power since World War II. You see, America is building new alliances while isolating China. The question isn't whether this will work. The real question is whether we start it soon enough. And speaking of critical minerals that China wants to control, more breaking news that you do need to know about. I'm talking about uranium. You see, the story we're covering right now actually started on January 5th of this year, when the Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. Now, that was like the appetizer. What happened today is the main course. You see, this is not just government spending. It's a declaration of intent. It's because America needs uranium, and it needs domestic uranium right now. And that's what Marco Rubio, that's what Vice President Vance was up to today, President Trump. It's because the U.S. consumes 50 million pounds of uranium annually, but produces only 5% domestically. We are completely dependent on foreign suppliers, including countries that aren't exactly friendly, like China or Russia. Now, smart investors saw this coming years ago. Atomic Minerals Corp has been quietly building the largest uranium portfolio in America. Okay, folks, they're not just mining uranium. They're securing America's energy independence. So while other companies chase trendy investments, Atomic Minerals is actually positioned for the American uranium boom that is starting. It's starting right now. It started this morning. The Department of Energy contracts already prove it. You see, America's going all in on domestic uranium. The question is, will you? There's an exclusive briefing that has been prepared for you. It's linked below because energy independence starts with uranium independence. Now, here's the twist that nobody saw coming. India just became America's secret weapon in this mineral war. While Pakistan begs for scraps, Modi's government is inside the room making the rules. Trump praised Modi publicly while other nations watch from the sidelines. It's not just about minerals anymore. This is about a complete reshuffling of global alliances. Some countries are about to get left behind permanently. Look at this picture. Look at this. This photo reminds me of when you see like these G20 alliances and G8 or whatever. But who pulled this off? This isn't some globalist party. This is Trump. This is America first. Do you understand? Look who's at the center of that picture. That's Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State leading the charge. Okay? And he's surrounded by all the other nations of the world. Because we're at the center. It's because it's America first. This is only the beginning. Pay very close attention to this report. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the Critical Minerals Ministerial. This initiative here may be one that started with us, but it's not just the American initiative. This is how we restore our rightful place in the world.
And I want to end by saying that while we intend to play a key role and an important role and to use the size and influence of our markets to drive this, this is an international, multilateral effort, and it only works. You can only have diversity and choice in these markets if it is broadly adopted across multiple countries. So this initiative here today may be one that started with us, but this is not solely an American initiative. This must be an international, global initiative with like-minded countries who all have one thing in common. We want to see a diverse supply of critical minerals and a secure and resilient supply chains across the world so all of our economies can prosper without ever having these things be susceptible, at worst case scenario, being used as leverage against us, or any other disruption that could come to the market that would undermine our collective economic security.
He's being a little humble there. But, yeah, welcome to the MAGA world order, folks. We're calling the shots now. The MFA of Morocco, Mr. Nasser Bourita, took part today in Washington at the ministerial meeting on critical minerals organized by the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, aimed at discussing solutions to secure and diversify critical mineral supply chains. You guys all remember what happened during COVID, right? You got a little taste of the supply chain disruption. Imagine if there was a massive supply chain disruption and China said, guess what? Russia's like, no, we're not sending. Our entire national security infrastructure crumbles. Data centers collapse. Yeah, it's bad, folks. That's why people don't even recognize the significance here. India joining the global elite, posing alongside U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other leaders. TRT World covering this, one of the few. Listen.
Meeting involves dozens of countries from around the world, but it's really all about one country, and that country is China, which obviously is not present here. At the moment, China has 60% of the world's critical earth minerals and processes 90% of those that are being processed. So it has a real stranglehold on supply at the moment. And the Americans had a nasty scare last year when Trump announced he was levying 100% tariffs on China. The Chinese response was to say that it was going to stop the export of these minerals to the United States, and the United States simply cannot function in the way it needs to without those minerals. So Trump immediately dropped that threat of tariffs, but it has been something of a wake-up call both for the Americans and for the rest of the world about
Did you hear what he
the
said?
need to...
Did you hear what he said? Trump threatened China with 100% tariffs. And China picked up the phone and said, you want to play that game? We're going to cut off your mineral imports. No, not going to send them. Forced Trump into a position. He recognized the national security threat. He had to back down because he knew that if China cut us off, we're screwed. And that's why today is so important, because this is the counter move. This is the counter strike against China. Welcome to the MAGA world order, bitches.
Diversify, the need to get away from this reliance on the Chinese. So this meeting is all about how best to do that, how to get more investment into the extraction of these minerals, into the processing of these minerals, and to gradually reduce this reliance on the Chinese. Now, one of the major aspects of all this will be pricing. Many of the countries here are saying, yes, we can go ahead and do more of this extraction, but we need to know that it's going to be worth our while or our businesses' while. So they want a minimum price guarantee that the Americans are willing to pay for these minerals. So far, the US has not said that that's acceptable. So that will be one of the major parts of the debate here. But this is being seen as long-term critical for the strategy going forward.
A couple weeks ago, we had the CEO of one of the major mining companies on. Go back. It's a part of our new national security series. See, we've been paying attention to this. We've been trying to bring it to people's attention. Go back, watch that interview. We're going to be lining up another one with the CEO next week. You do not want to miss it. Part 2 of our national security series. And all of this is connected. The first Critical Minerals Summit. Here's Marco Rubio.
Not have manufacturing without reliable and affordable energy. And so it's one of those things that I think potentially we could continue to partner along with other things, whether it's mining opportunities off the seabed. In essence, to utilize all of the resources of the country in a responsible way that protects your environment, that protects your natural beauty, but at the same time is generating income and opportunity of employment for the people. Ultimately, governments have two prime responsibilities, the safety and the prosperity.
Okay. Did you note what he said there about the environmental impact? You see, that's one of the major roadblocks that have been preventing us from securing our own frickin' resources in this country. You got these communists and these leftists screaming about spotted owls and cicadas or whatever. The breeding ground of the, purple frog. Right? You can't disrupt it. They care more about a purple frickin' frog than our own national security. Again, I go back to COVID. You remember what happened? The supply chain disruptions. Imagine that on a national security scale. China's got us by the balls, folks. They've got us by the balls. But Trump is about to make his move, and he did with this summit. Keep going. Marco Rubio talking about the U.S. mining. Check this out. Talking about what they just discovered in Mountain Pass, California.
And I want to use a case in point from our own history to highlight this. The United States used to produce its own critical minerals and derivative products like rare earth magnets. Back in 1949, miners in Mountain Pass, California discovered one of the world's richest mineral deposits. By 1952, the United States, we were mining rare earths there, and that discovery sparked a revolution. American scientists and engineers, alongside innovators from many of the countries that are here today, rushed to discover new applications for these minerals. And with these new technologies, ushered in the jet age. We ushered in the space age. We ushered in the computer age. And then we became blinded by the potential of the technologies those metals enabled, but we neglected their importance. Mining is less glamorous than building computers. It's less glamorous than building cars or airplanes. But building computers and cars and airplanes is less glamorous than designing them. As we embraced what was new and glamorous, we outsourced what seemed old and unfashionable. We allowed, for example, Mountain Pass, and with it most of America's critical mineral industry, to wither and to die so that we could focus on manufacturing. Then we outsourced the manufacturing. And I know this is a story I'm telling, but it's a story many of the advanced economies represented here today understand well. We outsourced the manufacturing so we could focus on designing these goods. And then one day we woke up and we realized We had outsourced our economic security and our very future. We were at the mercy of whoever controlled supply chains for these minerals. So my hope is that we are gathered here today as the first but important step to rectifying this mistake. Together, our collective talent for innovation, where our advantage over rivals has only grown, and to apply it to bringing back manufacturing and reopening mines here in the United States, but also in all the partner nations represented.
Yeah. A little story there for you from Marco. He doesn't need to explain to anyone here that critical minerals are vital to the devices we use every single day. Every day.
Tell you how honored we truly are that all of you would make the trip to be a part of this on such an important topic. And I want to thank the Vice President for coming this morning. I thought it was important you hear from him because it's a priority for this administration at the highest order, as it is, I know, a priority for many of our partners. And our hope is to use both this forum and our position here today to serve as a convener on what really is an international problem, an international situation or an international issue that needs multilateral international solutions. I don't need to explain to anybody here that critical minerals are vital to the devices that we use every single day. They power our infrastructure, our industry, and our national defense, which is something that's not talked about enough, but it's a key part of that. And so our goal is to have a global market that's secure, a global supply that's enduring and is available to everyone, every nation at an affordable price. That's a top priority for this administration.
Top priority. Finally. One American News covering it. One of the few.
Is that we are gathered here today as the first but important step to rectifying this mistake, to bring together our collective talent for innovation where our advantage over rivals has only grown, and to apply it to bringing back manufacturing and reopening mines here in the United States, but also in all the partner nations represented here today.
This is huge.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasizes the importance of critical minerals. Speaking at the State Department today, Rubio says it's a multilateral international issue that needs national solutions. He said critical minerals are vital to devices everyday Americans use, like power infrastructure, America's industry, and national defense. Rubio noted miners in Mountain Pass, California, discovered one of the world's richest mineral deposits in 1949. By 1952, he says Americans were mining rare earths there, and that discovery sparked a revolution. He asserts new technologies have since blinded manufacturers of their importance and necessity.
As we embrace what was new and glamorous, we outsource.
So, the Export-Import Bank president, they announced Project Vault, the executive order. That just happened this week. Okay. So we had what happened in January, early January, the executive order. And then we have the new executive order that creates Project Vault. And then today you have the summit on the critical minerals so that China and Russia and other nations cannot manipulate and control us. This is big deal. The first ever strategic minerals reserve, critical minerals reserve in U.S. history.
Gave us a very clear directive. He wanted us to come together and create the first ever strategic critical minerals reserve in American history. But it was an enormous challenge, not simply because it hadn't been done before, but we knew that we had to design it in a way that was scalable, that can be designed for long-term success, and that would help domestic mining industry, refining, processing, all catalyze that activity. But most importantly, President Trump wanted it delivered in a way that wasn't subsidized by the American people. And so what we were forced to think very differently about this problem. And we actually scoured the world, examining and studying every single model that was out there for critical reserves and various public-private partnerships. And candidly, Morgan, we didn't find anything that really uniquely fit America. And so Project Vault, what really does is it creates a public-private partnership formula we think is uniquely suited and puts America's best foot forward. So it brings together our robust capital markets, which are the deepest and the best in the world, but it also brings in the original equipment manufacturers, those OEMs, as partners. And so since they're the ones benefiting the most from our strategic reserve, they're the ones making the long-term financial commitment to it. The Export-Import Bank of the United States is making a $10 billion loan. That financing also unlocks private sector capital, which earns a return that's commensurate with the risk. And so what it does is it creates a scenario, Maureen, where there are no free riders. Everybody pitches in to solve this huge problem.
I hope you're still paying attention. Here is the Secretary Burgum on the importance of Trump's newly announced Project Vault.
We need to have a buffer, if you will, for private industry to make sure our auto, our defense, our technology companies, that they can all keep moving ahead because, of course, critical minerals are in virtually everything. We all touch them every day, whether it's your cell phone, whether it's your automobile. They're a component of everything. China controlling 85 to 100% of the refining of these minerals. So we want to bring mining back in this country. President Trump, mine baby mine. If we're going to be bringing back shipbuilding and manufacturing and onshoring, we've got to get back in the mining business. We also have to get into the refining business to refine those critical minerals here. And then when we get those businesses going, we've got to make sure that we have a stockpile so that when China, as they've done in the past, dumping into our markets, distorting the markets here, driving U.S. companies out of some of those countries, we've got to make sure that we've got a viable industry for critical minerals for ourselves and for our allies.
Project Vault, baby. Bring it. Let's go. Secretary Burgum, we need to control our own resources in order to preserve our national security. Paul Zapula writing that. Circular Solar. Data centers could demand 50,000 tons of this beautiful example of high-grade American mined copper, which ensures thermal efficiency and transfers zero-emission power sources. Copper. Tin-coated copper strand cable well-suited for floating power grids or data center. Copper is in everything. Bare copper versus copper cable. Great thermal efficiency. 50 countries joining the Trump administration's Critical Minerals Summit. Securing minerals for tech, EV, defense, green energy. $12 billion investment, supply chain diversification, and allied cooperation. Secretary Rubio leading the charge in that news conference today. He said every country has a role to play in the global initiative for critical minerals. Every country. Some deals are already getting signed. Others are still talking. Trump administration expands critical mineral strategy with international summit on Wednesday, signing supply chain deals with European and Asian partners beyond Monday's $12 billion strategic reserve announcement. Big news. The summit is expanding beyond just announcements into partnerships, and that's creating some interesting power dynamics. Trump publicly praising Modi while Pakistan leaders desperately seek attention. The Critical Mineral Summit told the whole story. India's inside making rules, Pakistan's outside begging for scraps.
Till about 6 months ago, if I would have told you that Prime Minister Modi and President Trump had finally struck a tariff deal without even meeting each other in a summit or a bilateral, we would have been called delusional. After months of icy statements and avoiding each other at summits, it seems like US-India relations are finally on the mend. And our neighbor, Pakistan, should be worried. Very worried. A phone call between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump delivered a mini trade deal that slashed India facing US tariffs from a brutal 25% plus 25% punitive duties to a far friendlier 18%. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar was in America at the same moment, walking straight into a high-level critical minerals summit that Pakistan seemingly did not get invited to. Meanwhile, Islamabad's leaders kept waving boxes of shiny rocks, lobbying and flattering and pleading, and Washington kept looking the other way. So is this just a tactical pause, or is Trump quietly preparing to kick Pakistan to the curb? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan, live from Dubai.
India's at the table making decisions, others left out, reshaping global alliances in real time. The vice president was there, spoke to world leaders on the importance of securing the critical minerals supply chain. Let's go to the vice president of the United States now.
Say a few things about what we're doing and why this matters. So I remember after our very wildly successful military operation in Venezuela, the President of the United States was talking with me and Marco and some of the other senior members of the cabinet, and he was talking just about how important it was that we ensured that the global economy had access to oil and gas many years in the future. And that, of course, is one of the reasons why we're interested in Venezuela, is because it has such a critical importance in this all-important resource called oil. And as much as we talk about the modern economy, the digital economy, the high-tech economy, the president said something that was very, very important and I think should inform a lot of how we think about future growth, which is that as much as data centers and technology and all of these incredible things that we're all working on matter, fundamentally, you still have an economy that runs on real things. And there is no realer thing than oil. And I would add to that, there's no realer thing than critical minerals. And I think a lot of us have learned the hard way, in some ways, over the last year, how much our economies depend on these critical minerals. So every man and woman, I believe, in this room understands what we're confronting together today. And I say together, and that is very much something that is at the heart of Secretary Rubio's initiative, and as he said, at the heart of what we're trying to do all across the administration, is recognize that this is something where our alliances and our friendships can really help one another. We're all on the same team. We're all rowing in the same direction. I believe that in this room, we have close to 2/3 of the world's GDP represented, and so we have the capacity to make ourselves more independent, more self-reliant, and that's what we should be doing.
And that's exactly what we are doing. The vice president is talking cooperation, but here is an urgent economic reality driving the entire initiative. We know that today the international market for critical minerals is failing. That's what he says. Listen.
Today, the international market for critical minerals is failing. It's failing to create domestic markets or dignified jobs for our labor forces, and it's failing to keep our nation safe. Supply chains remain brittle and exceptionally concentrated. Asset and commodity prices are persistently depressed, driven downward by forces beyond any individual country's control. Now, how many times cumulatively have one of us or many of us in this room heard some variation of the story that I'm about to tell? A lithium mine, a gallium recovery center, you name it, is announced, sometimes with years in planning and financing nearly in place. Then overnight, foreign supply floods the market, the prices collapse, and investors pull out. The project stalls, and eventually the project dies on the vine. We've all seen it firsthand in all of our countries. And the result is a global market where consistent investment is nearly impossible, and it will stay that way so long as prices are erratic and unpredictable. And that's one of the things that we want to work on with this initiative. Let's make the prices more predictable and less erratic so that we can support the domestic supply chains and the investment that makes those supply chains possible.
You know, as I watch this, I think about an administration that is proactive, that is executing its authority, looking out for you and me. The last 4 years of the Biden administration, they did nothing. There was nothing. There was no support. There was no growth. No proactive behavior or policy. Just confusion on which bathroom your kid should choose. Now we finally have an administration that is doing something. Working for us. This is what I voted for. It's not just about friendship. The current system is broken and costing everyone money. Here's more from the vice president talking to leaders around the globe.
Every single one of us represented in this room has become dependent on arrangements we did not choose, and right now, arrangements that we cannot control. We all face the same vulnerability: access to the things that protect our people and sustain our way of life. Everything from missile defense systems to energy infrastructure, to advanced manufacturing, to emerging technologies. The fundamental supply chains that support these industries sometimes can vanish in the blink of an eye without any control or influence from many of the countries in this room. And we in the Trump administration believe it is the business of the government, of the people's government elected just over a year ago, to confront such problems, and that we want to confront them together.
Yes. Yes. Give me more. Into my veins, please. The Trump team sees this as government's job to fix, and they want the allies locked in before moving forward. The vice president invites allies to form a critical minerals trading bloc.
Members to form a trading bloc among allies and partners, one that guarantees American access to American industrial might while also expanding production across the entire zone. The benefits will be immediate and durable. Regardless of how much material flows into the global market, prices within the preferential trade zone will remain consistent. Over time, our goal within that zone is to create diverse centers of production, stable investment conditions, and supply chains that are immune to the kind of external disruptions that we've already talked about.
China.
For those of you who join, we offer you a necessary foundation for private financing and secure access to the critical mineral supplies your nation would require in an emergency or some other contingency. By regulating imports to preserve free and fair competition within the preferential trading zone, we will elevate our nation's miners and refiners, our investors and our producers alike. We are all on the same team, and we need to create the economic incentives that reward people for investing and building in our countries. Membership will be vital for developing economies seeking to expand mining capacity. And it'll be just as important for the advanced economies that rely on these materials to sustain their advanced industries, to sustain their growth and security.
Did you even know this was an issue? Did you even know this was a blind spot? They just figured it out. Trump's like, you know what? Something's wrong here. We need to fix it. I mean, again, I go back to COVID. I only had that reference point during COVID when supply chains were completely disrupted. That was my first taste of this. But when I started to understand the critical minerals element here, that's like 1,000 times worse than COVID supply chains being disrupted. You can't get toilet paper at Costco. Okay? We're talking about the backbone of the industrial system in this country. The national security infrastructure in this nation. The data centers that you rely on. When you're scrolling Facebook and you're scrolling X and you're on YouTube even. They all rely on these critical resources. And it all dies when China says, sorry, no minerals for you. Right? Amazing. From invitation to action, the vice president just put a concrete offer on the table that forces countries to choose sides. Welcome to the MAGA world order. The United States called for a global rare earth coalition to bolster security against China, considering these minerals essential to its defense. At the summit with more than 50 nations, Rubio warned that external dependence on mining is a strategic vulnerability. Rubio's making the China threat explicit. The coalition isn't just about trade, it is about national security. Back to the Import-Export Bank.
Mr. President, the President gave us a very clear directive. By clear directive, it was much more of an order for us to figure out how to, for the first time in American history, create a strategic critical minerals reserve in a way that would benefit the non-military manufacturing complex. And the challenge was enormous, not simply because it had never been done before, Mr. President, but we knew that you expected us to deliver in a big way, in a way that was scalable, in a way that was designed for long-term success, and in a way that would help revitalize our domestic mining industry. But most importantly, most crucially, that it not be subsidized by American taxpayers. And so that's exactly what we've done. Mr. President, what you've announced today is a truly uniquely American solution. It brings together our capital markets, which are the best and biggest in the world, with our manufacturers, our innovators, our miners, all pitching in to make this possible. Now, these things don't happen without the best and the brightest within industry being at the table. And Mr. President, everyone wants to engage with this administration, with your administration. The key ingredient here was your call to action.
Yep.
Your call to action allowed us to bring together the best players in the market, sometimes the fiercest competitors, getting them to work together to come up with a creative solution. Now, in addition to our great team at the Export-Import Bank, who worked around the clock, led by Brian Greeley, Jeff Wilson, Sarah Whitten, many others, we benefited from having the biggest manufacturing CEOs, the smartest market players at the table, all looking to solve this problem. So what we have with Project Vault is marrying the capital solution with what we need when we need it most. And the best part about it is that the American taxpayer will earn a return on financing the first ever strategic critical minerals reserve in history. And we thank you, Mr. President, for allowing this to happen. All of the people around us today help make it possible. Our cabinet secretaries, our top CEOs, their teams, top market players, whether it be GM, GE Vernova, Boeing, Clarios, Google, Mercuria, especially Brian Fallick, Hartree, Traxxas, our friend Robert Friedland. All of us work together, Mr. President, to deliver this for you, and for the American people, so that manufacturers and workers all across the country can rest assured they'll have what they need when they need it most.
Let's go. Let's go. So you just saw it. The Export-Import Bank president revealed something incredible. For the first time in American history, we're creating a strategic minerals reserve that will actually make money for taxpayers, not cost money, make money. Trump didn't just launch a coalition, he weaponized capitalism itself against China's monopoly. Look, Trump just fired the opening shot in the resource war of the 21st century. Well, Democrats spent years talking about supply chains. Trump built an actual coalition of 50 nations to break China's mineral monopoly. The Export-Import Bank is financing America's first ever strategic critical minerals reserve, and it's designed to turn a profit for you. India's in, Pakistan's out, and China's mineral empire just got its first real challenge. This is not just policy. This is economic warfare with American allies lined up and ready to fight. The question is simple. Do you think America can build a supply chain strong enough to challenge China's decades-long monopoly? Let me know below. And while you're thinking about America's resource independence, check out the Next News merch shop for gear that celebrates American self-reliance. Wow. Such a blind spot. Trump saw it, and he took action. Yes, he did. Holy cow. Beautiful. Beautiful. And what's equally as beautiful is that James Fay came back with another 10 spot 23 minutes ago. Thank you, James Fay. And then Terry also coming in, $9.99. Pray Forrest Trump's safety. Yes, we will pray for President Trump's safety. Moving into our next topic, which is just as wild. Yes, we got to talk about the Epstein files. We got to talk about what's happening overseas, and we got to talk about those cabinets. No, not presidential cabinets. Yes, the cabinets that we were told were just a conspiracy. Bill Gates is sweating bullets. The Epstein files just dropped bombshell evidence connecting him to Russian girls and secret medication plots against his own wife. Meanwhile, British politician Peter Mandelson got caught red-handed sharing state secrets with that dead pedo. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you about this elite corruption network. It's not just about perverted billionaires anymore. This is about how deep the rabbit hole goes into our power structure. We're talking about a British official feeding classified government intelligence to Jeffrey Epstein, including advance notice of prime minister resignations and $500 billion European bailouts. Think about what that means for you. These people were trading state secrets with a known child trafficker while making decisions that affect global markets, your retirement accounts, your economic future. Of course, Bill Gates claims he never went to the island, never met any woman, just innocent dinner meetings. Right. And his wife divorces him. The same guy who allegedly planned to secretly medicate his wife without her knowledge, right? These aren't isolated incidents of rich guy depravity. This is a coordinated intelligence operation where pedophile blackmail intersects with the highest levels of government and corrupt power. Speaking of never surrendering to corruption, let me tell you about something that perfectly captures the fighting spirit that we need right now. You ever see something and instantly know it's going to turn heads? That's exactly what happened when I saw these Trump never surrender gold sneakers. Now, these are not subtle, and they're not supposed to be. While Gates and Mandelson were surrendering American and British interests to Epstein's blackmail network, Trump never surrendered to the establishment. These shoes embody that defiance, gold finish that catches the light, red, white, and blue details that scream patriotism. Never surrender printed right on the sole like a battle cry. You put these on, you're making a statement about refusing to bow down to the corporate elites. Get yours. It's linked down below, and show the world that you will never surrender to the swamp. But wait, it gets even worse. The memes are already flying. Oh, yes. I named Microsoft after my wiener. Change my mind. Oh, you gotta love the memes. You see, Peter Mandelson, he wasn't just sharing gossip with Epstein. He was providing real-time intelligence about secret underground meetings between the prime minister and defense officials. Epstein's response, talking about how the value of some chapters in your book should now increase. You see, that's blackmail language, my friends. Mandelson just resigned from the Labor Party. Oh, and the pictures? Oh, God. But of course, resignation's not enough when you're caught red-handed committing treason. Shall we dive in? I think we shall. Oh, Billy Gates. It's true, he says. I only had dinners. I never went to the island. You see, Bill Gates is doing major damage control right now. His wife just did an NPR interview. Oh, so he immediately picks up the phone and starts doing interviews, try to correct the record from his ex-wife, the one he tried to drug, apparently.
True that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So he never met any women. Why is he getting all these antibiotics for his wife then? Whatever to keep her
Which
safe.
he denies, by the way. He says that was an email that Jeffrey Epstein wrote and never sent. It was...
But I want to go back. Just look at his face.
True that.
Look at his face. Look at his face. You see, you can just see it. When he says, I never went, he blinks, he closes his eyes. I mean, it just feels like he's lying right to us.
Actually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake.
Oh, it was a mistake. Because denial opens the floodgates, and now we're seeing exactly what those dinners actually involve, starting with suspicious financial transactions. Now, I got sent this tweet late last night. Folks, we were all called conspiracy theorists for this one, remember? I did not want to be proven right, but it seems like we always are. We're always ahead of the curve. Hey, Grok, the screenshot appears to show a PayPal receipt where Jeffrey Epstein's assistant purchased a single $8,453 item from Wayfair. But the item itself is unlabeled. Any idea what something like that could have been? What exactly was this? The shipping address, the merchant, Wayfair, receipt for your payment to Wayfair. You sent a payment, $8,453. What was it exactly? Just no description. How does someone spend $8,453 at Wayfair, but there's no product description? The mysterious $8,453 Wayfair purchase is not random. It connects to a conspiracy theory that's about to be vindicated with hard evidence. Who remembers back in July of 2020, it was found that human child trafficking was happening using extremely overpriced items on Wayfair as a cover. It was a crazy conspiracy, remember? Well, it turns out as conspiracy theorists were right yet again. We called it in 2020, and now the Epstein files are proving them right. Wayfair's role in this network. And that's not all. Woody Allen's assistant seems real concerned with the delivery of some chairs. Several of the emails, they showed up late. Then they were referred to as a gift. Woody Allen's assistant. What is this? I'll let you know when Allen receives the chairs. Thank you again. Hi, Lauren. The chairs, are they going to be delivered today? Can you confirm receipt? Want to be able to tell Jeffrey his gift arrived. Good news. Your shipment from order 229-1958842 is on its way. You can track your package below. Tracking information. And of course, where does this come from? Oh, we're not just pulling random. This is from the Justice Department. Yeah. Did you know someone actually created an entire they cloned Google Gmail, and they dumped all of Jeffrey Epstein's emails into this kind of fake Gmail account. Jmail.world is the website. And you can scroll through it just like you're looking at your own Gmail account. But instead, it's all of Jeffrey Epstein's emails. And the creepy part is that it's like the very last emails that you see are about his arrest. People emailing him, hey, man, I'm sorry to hear you got arrested. And then, oh, sorry to hear about what happened in the cell. It's the most bizarre thing you'll ever see. A snapshot into Jeffrey Epstein's emails that you could read just like your own. I was browsing it last night and I was freaked out. But it's not just Epstein's circle, other Hollywood elites. We're using the same coded language for deliveries that never arrived as advertised. Digital Daisy says, remember when Wayfair was naming furniture after missing children and selling it at outrageous prices? Yeah, that was just a conspiracy. Yeah. An acrylic, a Deontay clear acrylic oval dining table, $279,000. A gold novelty floor lamp set, $175,000. Gold novelty. Minimalist, coffee table, $869. What's this? Let's dive deeper, shall we? We shall.
If you didn't know, the Wayfair conspiracy started in 2020 when people noticed something really strange on Wayfair's website. There were basic items like cabinets and pillows listed for thousands of dollars, but the weirdest part, many of these items had human names, not product names. Internet users began comparing those names to missing children databases, and some of the names matched. That's when the theory exploded. People were saying that these overpriced items weren't furniture at all, but coded listings for human raffles, we'll say raffles, where the buyer would receive a child instead of a product. But Wayfair denied everything, saying the prices were due to industrial grade items and naming conventions from suppliers. Law enforcement also said there was no evidence. But that's what you would say if you were in on it. But the mystery stuck. Why the extreme prices? Why the names? And why did listings disappear after people noticed? To this day, some believe it was a coincidence. Others think it was a mistake that exposed something far darker. And that makes me wonder, what does Wayfair actually do? Stay weird.
What do they do? I don't even know. Here, you can see some of the pictures. Right here. Annabelle Wilson. Missing since 2020. Oh, but here's an Annabelle shelf for $10,000. Another one. Semyon, 17-year-old, missing from Columbus, Ohio. And Simya, Simya, 5-shelf cabinet storage, $12,000. Yeah. A Yaritza Castro, missing since June 10th of 2020. Oh, here's a Yaritza storage cabinet for $13,000. Here's another one. Dupless zodiac sign constellation, $10,000. Missing person. Another one. Missing. Kaya Coleman. Missing since January 25th, 2020. 16 years old. But here's a shelf. $12,000. A shelf. You see what's going on here? Missing. Endangered. Mary Durrett, age 16. And here's a Durrett zodiac sign astrological constellation for $10,000. Coincidence? You tell me. The pattern is undeniable. Overpriced furniture with children's names wasn't just coincidence. It was a systematic operation. Apparently, Wayfair's still doing it. There's no way this cabinet sells for $9,487. If you notice, these overpriced cabinets are always the ones with only a few left in stock. Ultra MAGA says they're bidding on a child and want people to know there's only one or two left. Two left in stock. For that. $10,000, please. But now we're moving into the personal scandals that are destroying relationships. Melinda Gates responding after Epstein file suggests Bill Gates got an STD from Russian girls and planned to secretly medicate her. This was on NPR.
Emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, you know, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life.
Bill Gates' wife. The STD allegations aren't just gossip, they're documented evidence that shattered Gates' marriage and exposed his secret affairs. David Wolf writes, Bill Gates to Jeffrey Epstein, preparing for pandemics. Let's discuss the next steps, for example, how to officially involve the WHO and CDC. I hope we can pull this off. This is the email. Jeffrey Epstein, please find the attached draft agenda for meeting on preparing for pandemics as requested. Let's discuss next steps, for example, how to officially involve the WHO and ICRC. Best regards, hope we can pull this off, preparing for pandemics. But the personal scandals are the tip of the iceberg. These files reveal Gates and Epstein were planning something much bigger together. Bill Gates caught STDs from Russian girls he slept with, apparently, says James Goddard. Bill Gates slept with Russian girls, got a sexually transmitted disease, and asked for antibiotics to slip in his then-wife, Melinda. Oh, and here's a picture of Bill and a redacted female in a hotel. You can tell by the background. What is this? Is this an airport, maybe? Is that a TSA agent? Hard to tell. But those carts are generally seen in airports. Oh, I see what this is. Uh-huh. Ha ha ha. You see what that is behind him? Signature Flight Support. He is, okay. Now, I've flown private jets before. I've been to these private terminals. Signature is a private jet terminal. They have them, they're outside of the traditional terminals you see at the airports, usually on the opposite side. During the pandemic, I had the luxury of being able to fly private, thanks to a very generous viewer of this program who allowed me to continue my operations using his private jet. That's how I know what this is. So this is not a hotel, and that's why the TSA agent's in the background. He's a private jet terminal with an unknown person. Now, what private jet terminal? Who uses private jets? Well, the Lolita Express, of course. Right? And here we have Bill Gates with an unidentified female at a private jet terminal from the Jeffrey Epstein files. Ready for takeoff, sir. And we have your escort waiting. The STD story gets worse. Gates wasn't just cheating. He was allegedly trying to medicate his wife without knowledge. We posted this the other day. Newly released Epstein files include a 2013 email where Jeffrey Epstein alleges his relationship with Bill Gates ended after a request to delete emails referencing STD antibiotics to be secretly given to Gates' wife. This is the actual letter that was sent, the email. Now, it does say at the top, from Jeffrey to Jeffrey. Dear Bill, I can't believe you've chosen to disregard our friendship. You implore me, please delete the emails regarding your STD. Your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda and the description of your penis. So, why would Jeffrey send an email to himself? Because Jeffrey wasn't a moron. He was documenting the conversations. Moving right along. Get the page to load back. But you just saw it. Jeffrey Epstein sending emails to himself, documenting the story. I named Microsoft after my wiener. Change my mind. Newly released Epstein files are drawing renewed attention after a 2017 email surfaces linking Epstein and Gates, including discussions about creating pandemic simulations years before COVID-19. The timeline leading up to COVID all makes sense now.
Anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
If we get an airborne pandemic, if we haven't built ahead of time some structures to deal with this, millions of people could be adversely impacted.
But also there will be a surprise outbreak. The next administration, that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
Pandemic prevention and preparedness is going to end up being, whether the administration likes it or not, a priority, a top priority.
Trump is now president. When he faces his first major epidemic, as his predecessors have, he will likely project his impulsivity, xenophobia, and cavalier attitude towards facts to over 52 million followers.
We may yet again have another pandemic, and it is almost inevitable that we will have another pandemic.
Welcome to Event 201.
Of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic.
A new coronavirus.
Why don't we blow the system up and then say, hey, everyone in the world should get this new vaccine we haven't given to anyone yet?
But it is not too crazy to think that an outbreak of a novel avian virus could occur in China somewhere. We could get the RNA sequence from that and print those vaccines on a patch and self-administer.
Need I say more? The pandemic simulation timeline is now connecting dots that powerful people hope would stay buried forever. Howard Lutnick, did you know, member of the administration, actually lived next door to Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what he had to say about the guy.
Jeffrey Epstein was your neighbour. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about him. East 71st Street. He was your neighbour for 10 years. How well did you know him?
All right. So we are in number 11 and he lives in number 9.
Right.
So we renovate, we buy our house, and our house is pigeons and mice.
Right.
Okay, that's it. It was derelict.
Right.
So we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, or something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. You know, we walk the 7 steps,
yes,
right, to the next house for coffee. We share a wall.
Right.
Right. So it's in New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this, and he says, do you want a tour? We said, great.
Interesting.
He's got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got, well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide. And so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he like gets like weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Really? So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Oh my God. When your neighbor calls you gross, but billionaires keep visiting, there's only one explanation. According to this insider, Melinda Gates seems very relieved to have left a sinking ship. She left Bill in the foundation and dismisses everything. But is that correct? While she was in the BMGF, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, numerous crimes against humanity have been performed. Can she walk away from that so easily?
No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage, but I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles.
Melinda's escape from the Gates empire may not be as clean as she hoped. Her timing is now raising questions. Sharbelita official, a picture in the Epstein files, has finally forced out Peter Mendelsohn, who's been allowed to resign while remaining in the House of Lords. Scandal after scandal. You ready for this picture? Yeah. You ready for this? I'm warning you. Caught with your pants down. Literally. Caught with your pants down. Now, where was this picture taken? Well, it was in the Epstein files. Literally. Like, you let this guy take a picture of you in your freaking underwear, and you're with a woman whose face has been redacted in Epstein's house. Peter Mendelsohn became the first major resignation from these files, but crimes go beyond just knowing Epstein. So there's proof now. Peter Mendelsohn emailed Epstein with early heads up of Gordon Brown's resignation, $500 billion bailout to save the euro in 2010, both before the public knew. This is open and shut stuff. Mendelsohn is going to jail. Here's the email. Yep. I have faith the value of some chapters in your book should now increase. Finally got him to go today. Mendelsohn wasn't just partying with Epstein, he was leaking state secrets and profiting from insider information. Former British government minister Peter Mendelsohn has resigned as a member of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party after new reports of his ties with disgraced U.S. financier Epstein, media reports said.
Former British government minister Peter Mendelsohn resigned Sunday as a member of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party. That is after new reports surfaced linking him with disgraced U.S. financier Jeffrey Epstein. According to reports by the BBC and other news organizations, Mendelsohn said in a letter that he did not wish to cause, quote, further embarrassment to Labour. He said allegations about financial payments to him by Epstein were false, and he would investigate them. Starmer fired Mendelsohn as Britain's ambassador to the United States last year. He came under scrutiny after U.S. lawmakers released documents, including a letter in which he called Epstein his, quote, best pal. Mendelsohn was a key figure in the Labour Party's electoral success when Tony Blair was prime minister, starting in the 1990s. But he was twice forced to quit as minister over allegations of misconduct. He later served for a time as European Union Trade Commissioner.
Just one down. Reuters confirms what we've been reporting. Mendelsohn's political career is over, but the criminal implications are only beginning. And then we find out this. Leonardo DiCaprio needed to make some money in 2009. So where does he go? Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein then contacts Peter Mendelsohn for non-U.S. sponsors for the megastar. DiCaprio's connection shows how Epstein was the go-to guy for celebrity financing, with Mendelsohn as his political fixer. Mario Nafal writes that the Epstein files include a photo of Lord Peter Mendelsohn, former UK ambassador to the U.S., in his underwear alongside a young woman in a bathrobe. Mendelsohn claims he has no recollection of the photo or any connection to Epstein, despite files showing Epstein wired $75,000. The underwear photo of Mendelsohn is the smoking gun proves everything. $75,000 in wire transfers don't lie. Bill Gates claims the Epstein files emails suggest he got an STD from Russian girls were false.
No doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. Was he trying to attack me in some way? But, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners, I never went to the island, I never met any women, and so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should, hold people who are successful to a very high bar, and so, it's, as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
Okay. I never met any women, he says. Oh, but I'm going to go back to that picture. Where's the picture? The picture of him in the jet. Oh, I never was with any of those women. But he's in a private terminal in the Jeffrey Epstein files. So who are you going to believe? Yeah. Oh, yes. And the picture here, taken inside Jeffrey Epstein's Paris flat. So here's the smoking gun everyone's missing. Epstein's email signature contained a legal disclaimer about attorney-client privilege and inside information. It wasn't all casual friendship. It was a formal intelligence operation. Mandelson was feeding classified state secrets to a convicted pedophile who was running a blackmail ring for foreign intelligence services. That is the definition of treason. The Epstein network wasn't just about sick billionaires and underage girls. It was an intelligence operation designed to compromise and control Western leaders through blackmail. Gates can deny the Russian girls and secret medication plots all he wants, but the emails don't lie. Mandelson can claim no recollection of his underwear photos, but his resignation speaks louder than his denials. These people sold out their countries for access to Epstein's network of power and perversion. The question isn't whether they're guilty. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether justice will finally be served, or if the establishment will protect its own, like always. Do you believe Bill Gates' denials about his Epstein connections? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to check out the Next News merch shop for gear that shows you'll never surrender to elite corruption. This is a spicy show tonight, guys. This is a spicy show. And clearly, YouTube is not sending out any notifications. So guys, I need you guys to hit that share. I need you guys to text this out. Get the numbers up, man. This is ridiculous. I don't know what to say. You guys are my only weapon here. Okay. We're moving into our next story because this is going to determine the fate of our republic. What's happening right now on Capitol Hill determines the fate of the nation. 2026, 2028, and beyond. So pay very close attention. Chuck Schumer. Sorry, Brian, false start. Chuck Schumer just had a complete meltdown on the Senate floor, screaming that requiring proof of citizenship to vote is Jim Crow 2.0. Meanwhile, 83% of Americans support the SAVE Act, including 76% of black voters. But here's what Schumer doesn't want you to know about why Democrats are so desperate to kill this bill. It's not just about voting integrity anymore. This is about the complete exposure of the Democrat Party's election strategy. When 83% of Americans support requiring proof of citizenship to vote, and Schumer's having a panic attack trying to stop it, you have to ask why. What are they so afraid of? Your vote is literally being diluted by people who should not be voting in the first place. Every illegal vote cancels out your legal vote. Now we're watching Democrats openly admit they'll fight tooth and nail to protect non-citizen voting. Senator Tuberville saying half a dozen members of Congress didn't legitimately even win their own elections. My friends, the evidence is mounting and the Democrat panic is reaching a fever pitch. And speaking of national security threats that the establishment wants to ignore, I need to tell you about a critical vulnerability that they've created. Back on January 5th of this year, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This is not just government spending. It's a declaration of intent. You see, America needs uranium. It needs domestic uranium, and it needs it right now. The U.S. consumes 55 million pounds of uranium annually, but we only produce 5% domestically. We're completely dependent on foreign nations, including our adversaries, for nuclear fuel. Just like Democrats made us energy dependent, they made us uranium dependent. But smart investors saw this crisis coming years ago. Atomic Minerals has been positioned in the uranium sector since, guess when? 2021. In their portfolio, companies are sitting on massive uranium deposits right now, right here in the United States. So while politicians are playing games with our election security, savvy Americans are securing their financial future in the uranium boom that is only just beginning. You see, the establishment failed us on energy independence, election security, and uranium production, but Americans are fighting back on all fronts. Look at the link in the description for your exclusive briefing for Next News viewers. We thank them for sponsoring the show, but here's the kicker. CNN was forced to admit not some fringe Republican position. The polling is so overwhelming, even mainstream media can't even spin it. 83% support includes massive Democrat voter support. You see, Schumer's not just fighting Republicans. He's fighting his own base. And now Trump-backed candidates are threatening to primary any Republican who won't support the SAVE Act. Vice President Vance just did an interview on the SAVE Act. Check this out.
Well, we're working very hard right now to get the Senate to approve it, because if the Senate approves it, we think the House would approve it too. Now, that would require, I think, some Republican senators who maybe they're a little too attached to the filibuster, maybe they're a little too attached to Senate procedure. This is about the integrity of American democracy. Like, do the people control who they elect, or do some shady people? It's like, who actually controls the people who cast the ballots or the people who count the ballots? We want the sovereignty to be with the people who cast the ballots, and that's why we have to get the SAVE Act passed. Now, you'll hear people say all the time, and I love this argument. They'll say, well, if you look at this precinct, only 3 illegal aliens voted in this election. Number one, that's 3 illegal aliens too many. And number two, if it's not a big problem, then why not just allow us to check ID and exercise some basic precautions to prevent illegal aliens from voting? I never quite understand the person who says, on the one hand, this never happens, and on the other hand, your effort to prevent it from happening is a threat to American democracy, which is fundamentally the Democrats' argument. By the way, it's like an 85-15 issue.
Yeah.
Most Democrats want voter ID because they want to protect their own vote.
But the elected leaders don't want to vote for it.
But the elected leaders don't, because they know that the more control they give to the people who are counting the ballots, as opposed to those who are casting the ballots, the more control they will have.
Vance lays it out. Voter ID is not racist and not controversial to Americans across demographic groups, except for Democrat Party loyalists blindly following their leaders like Chuck Schumer.
Also in Washington, conservatives are pushing for the passage of the SAVE Act, which would, among other things, require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship before registering an individual to vote in a federal election. Now, there is overwhelming support for ensuring that only citizens vote and for providing voter ID when they do. This morning on CNN, polling director Harry Enton called it this way. Here's cut 9.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country.
Fully 83% of the American people support photo ID before you can vote. And to reiterate, black voters, 76%. White voters, 85%. Latino voters, 82%. Now, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, calls all of this Jim Crow 2.0. Now, when you hear them bring out that old chestnut of a talking point, you know they really have nothing. But how can it be when Jim Crow 2.0, when black voters themselves overwhelmingly support voter ID. Again, black voters support showing ID, 76%. A white Democrat from New York City, it seems to me, is telling black voters they are too stupid to know what is best for them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the modern Democratic Party in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. 76% of black voters support voter ID. Meanwhile, a Democrat from New York City is telling black voters they're too stupid to know what's best for them. This sets up the central battle lines. Watch how Democrats are responding to the pressure with increasingly dramatic rhetoric. Schumer says it's Jim Crow 2.0.
We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it.
Okay, so this is the Democrat leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and he's lying through his teeth. The SAVE Act is not Jim Crow 2.0. The SAVE Act and Jim Crow are nothing alike. The Jim Crow laws were like state and local statutes that were enforcing racial segregation. On top of that, they would disenfranchise Black Americans through things like poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, and violence. That was truly rooted in white supremacy, and it targeted Black Americans to suppress their voting rights and their civil rights. Now let's compare that to the SAVE Act. It's essentially a modern election security measure focused on providing proof of citizenship to be able to register to vote in the United States. So here are a couple highlights of what the SAVE Act does or requires. It requires voters to provide proof of citizenship, for example, a passport, birth certificate, or certain real ID compliant documents that indicate citizenship. And this needs to be done in person. So when registering to vote or updating voting records, it needs to be done in person, and you need your proof of citizenship. It prohibits states from accepting or processing voter registration applications without this proof. It effectively ends or severely limits mail-in registration, online registration, and automatic voter registration like at DMVs unless proof is provided in person. It also requires states to set up alternative processes for other evidence of citizenship if it's needed. And I've been seeing things go back and forth, but I also think it's being added in that it will require voter ID to vote. Like when you go vote, you have to have your ID. This is not discriminating against people based on race. But Chuck Schumer is trying to lie and manipulate people into reacting emotionally to oppose it because he doesn't think it's in Democrats' best interest. And I mean Democrats' political power. Look at this image. What does it say behind him? Rein in ICE, stop violence. Look at the first thing, in the roving patrols. Why do Democrats want to rein in ICE? Because they want less people being deported because it's going to hurt their census numbers when it gets to 2030. It also gives every time someone's deported, that's one less person they can convert from amnesty and have a future voter. So think about it. He wants us not deporting a bunch of illegal immigrants. And then on top of that, he wants our elections less secure. Put those two things together, and what does that make you think? That's interesting, is it not? As a whole, the Democrat Party wants to leave a bunch of illegal aliens in the US and their states, and they want our elections less secure. That's concerning. Chuck Schumer is on stage lying through his teeth, trying to emotionally manipulate people into opposing us having better election integrity. Questionable, is it not? But that's all I got for now. Don't forget I have a free email newsletter. I send this out every morning at 7 a.m. Link is in my bio.
The boy's on point right there. And I've said the same thing. Of course they don't want to have everyone deported. They need the voters. And if you don't have an ID to vote, guess what? They can vote. It all makes sense. Schumer's inflammatory language is backfiring. Here's how Republicans are systematically dismantling the arguments. Dems going back to their hyperbolic, false-based descriptions on voter ID requirements. It's not true. Those who do not have a photo ID can't vote because every state offers photo ID from DMV or offer to help. Policy details matter, but this is becoming a messaging war, and Schumer just handed his opponents ammunition. Here's more from that clip. Schumer admitting the Democrat Party will now fight tooth and nail to block voter ID and citizenship.
We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it.
We're going to do everything we can to stop it. That quote is political gold for SAVE Act supporters. Now watch how they're weaponizing Schumer's words against him. Mike Lee. It's scandalously false to suggest the SAVE Act requiring proof of citizenship to vote is to revert to Jim Crow. The SAVE Act is designed to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. Schumer could not be more wrong.
Not going to let them revert to Jim Crow. And if you don't think they want to revert to Jim Crow, just look what they did in the SAVE Act, which went back to took Jim Crow for the whole nation. By so making it hard, they said you need ID, and they made it so hard to show ID that probably half the people in America couldn't vote. We wouldn't let it pass.
Half the people in America couldn't vote? Really? So does that mean half the people in America can't drive? Half the people in America can't open a bank account? Half the people in America can't buy a pack of cigarettes? Is that right? This guy's a frickin' moron. It's just too easy to knock this. This is too easy to knock this guy down. The constitutional arguments are flying, but behind the scenes, there's trouble brewing, apparently, in the Republican ranks. And just like that, John Thune signals that the Senate will not pass the SAVE Act?
Here. Filibuster to try to outlast the Democratic minority under current rules. Do you have any expectation that you can succeed with that, given the enormous difficulty of doing that? In fact, the previous majority has not been able to.
Right. Well, I guess, and I would just remind people that the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it. And we have a lot of things we have to do. There's a housing bill that's awaiting action, hopefully a market structure bill, possibly permitting reform, farm bill, highway bill. You can go right down the list. Russia sanctions, there are a whole bunch of things that could be teed up for action on the floor of the Senate. And so you have to make some judgments, and the conference will have a conversation about that. I've committed to that we will talk about that idea and determine whether or not what the conference's views are about it and how they want to proceed. As I said, we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of. So we will have those discussions, but that's obviously ties the floor up for an indefinite amount of time with not only unlimited debate, but also unlimited amendments.
All right, rather we had the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House speaking at the same time. That's why we're jumping back and forth. But the bill has passed, funding DHS and the other.
Oh, man. No balls, dude. No balls. Just end the filibuster, man. He's too worried. End it. Find a procedural move. End it. Get around it. Get the freaking vote passed. This crack in GOP unity could sink everything, and it's sparking a grassroots revolt. Would you support primarying any Republican that does not support the SAVE Act? That's a good question. The base is mobilizing against their own party leadership, but wait until you see the polling numbers that are changing everything. CNN forced to air record support for the SAVE Act. Push the SAVE Act and force Democrats to admit they are against the 83% of what Americans want. Here's CNN.
I do think that the SAVE Act is a great idea. 83% of Americans support it, as I learned on CNN this morning, and that includes, 76% of Black Americans, 82% of Latinos, 85% of white Americans. So to me, that's the move. Push the SAVE Act and force Democrats to admit that they are against what 83% of Americans want. I think this is all kind of just a distraction, a bit of nonsense.
Can I say?
Force their hand. The poll numbers are forcing hostile media to acknowledge reality, but some senators are going further than voter ID. Senator Tuberville talking about the voting machines. Remember? What did Vance say? Who counts the votes, right? You could have the votes, but who counts them?
Of course, President Trump wants same-day voting, mail ballots, get rid of these voting machines. There's a half a dozen people, whether it's the House or Senate, Larry, that are up here as we speak, that did not get elected. It was all bogus because we've seen the evidence, and if we don't straighten that out, you're going to see a lot more of it this fall, and it's just going to get worse and worse with the American people saying, listen, we got all y'all up there, and you don't do anything to straighten it out. We want closed borders, and we want fair elections. Those two things they are demanding, and as Republicans, we had better to listen to them and do that, or we're going to lose next fall.
A lot of states, don't even have an ID picture. And by the way, I vote in the state of Connecticut. You don't need an ID. You don't need a picture. You could show them a credit card, Senator. Anybody can get a credit card, any kind of credit card. You could show them a debit card, and that's sufficient. Many states allow driver's licenses. Well, anybody can get a driver's license. Some states are allowing illegals to get driver's licenses for commercial purposes. So the SAVE Act would eliminate that stuff. It's very important, but you got to make the case. I don't hear many people making the case. And let me
get rid of the voting machines. Require the ID to vote. Here's the moment of truth. When a white Democrat from New York tells black Americans they're too stupid to get voter ID, while 76% of black voters support it, you're watching the mask come completely off. Schumer's Jim Crow hysteria is not protecting anyone. It's about protecting illegal votes. You see, the SAVE Act is exposing everything. Democrats are in panic mode because they know their margins depend on questionable votes. When 83% of Americans support something, Chuck Schumer is having meltdowns to stop it, you know exactly what's happening. This is why they fight so hard against voter ID, because they need the illegal votes to win. The evidence is mounting, the polling is crushing, and their desperation is showing. Every American who believes in election integrity needs to demand their representatives support the SAVE Act immediately. Do you believe requiring proof of citizenship to vote is common sense? Or do you side with Chuck Schumer's hysteria? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, check out the Next News merch shop for gear that shows you stand with election integrity and America First policies. All right. We're into the second hour, moving into our fifth. I never got a notification from him. I'm always late, says good for you too. Tammy, over on Rumble. After all this, no MAGA senators. Schumer's a traitor. He's one of the 8 that removed the law that kept those that hate make laws over us, like Omar. Great job in the likes. What are we at on likes? Super chats are floundering tonight. James and Terry are the anchors in super chats tonight. Let's see, we're at, how does it say? 310 likes. 310 likes. We're at $29.99 in super chats. Okay, moving right along. Hit the like button. All right. Karen got a notification. All right. Let's see here. We need to talk about what happened today. Minneapolis, chaos. Yeah, still happening. In Minneapolis right now, anti-ICE protesters, they're not just blocking roads. They're running license plate checks like they're law enforcement. But here's what they don't want you to know. According to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, this entire chaos operation is actually cover for a massive underground fraud network. Federal prosecutors from across the country now flooding into Minneapolis for multiple investigations. You see, this goes way deeper than immigration enforcement. When protesters can set up roadblocks and run your plates while actual police stand down, we're talking about the complete breakdown of law and order. Your safety, your freedom of movement, your basic rights as an American citizen are being trampled by leftist activists who think they can play cop. And now we're learning this might all be orchestrated to hide the massive criminal fraud operations. Meanwhile, Democrats like Jerry Nadler are literally telling people it's justified to shoot ICE agents because they wear masks. Tom Homan and Secretary Noem's agents are risking their lives to remove dangerous criminals from our communities. And the left wants them dead. Speaking of things hidden from view, let me tell you something that should terrify every American. Because if you're over 40 and you're planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you have built may be smaller than you realize. Many investors in their 40s and 50s have zero exposure to precious metals. Their savings are tied to markets and paper assets with very little protection if conditions change quickly. As retirement gets closer, protecting what you've built matters as much as growing it. Noble Gold Investments helps investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolio, something you can actually hold. Not numbers on a screen, no pressure, no gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. Visit nextnewsgold.com to learn how to protect what you have worked hard to build. That's nextnewsgold.com. Or give them a call at that number on the screen and find out how you can get one of these 3-ounce American Virtues Independence Silver Round. Absolutely beautiful if you're a collector. Now here's where it gets really insane. Apparently kids on Roblox are now conducting mock immigration raids online, which means the ICE debate has reached every corner of American culture. And when a black ICE agent simply asked a leftist protester if they were a man, the crowd completely lost it and started hurling racial slurs at him. The tolerance crowd showing their true colors once again. Here's a father who raged after finding out his son's school took him to an ICE protest without permission. Yeah, that's happening.
My son just called and said that his school just brought him to a protest. So he's currently at a fucking protest. I'm fitting to go rage. Who the fuck said you could bring my child to a protest? Any of our kids to a protest. They see what's happening today. Bringing kids out there now. Purposely in schools. Washington State. Send this out. Washington State. Sending their kids to protest. I'll see you soon. Let me give you a little rundown on the way there. White Center, we call out here Rat City. If anybody from Washington State knows this Rat City is not an area you bring kids, let alone bring kids to a protest in this piece of shit city. If anybody knows White Center, you know Rat City is dangerous. Why are you bringing our kids into dangerous territory with fucking protesting going on? Anyway, I'll see you soon. See you in the next video. It looks like they made it all back to the school already before I could get here. Yeah, so they all just got back before I can get here. All the kids. Fucking furry teachers on their bikes. Is this really what's going on? This is craziness. This is craziness. We got the blue hairs, everything. Are you serious? Yellow hair? Oh my God, my kid is at a woke school. What is going on? This is Cascade Middle School, everybody. Cascade Middle School in Washington State. Did you consent to that?
I didn't want to.
You didn't want to do that?
No, after the cops came up, one of the guys was like the guy with the megaphone, like a kid, who's like, do not talk to the federal thingamabobs, whatever it is.
Best believe I will be at the next school board meeting. You'll see my next video when that happens.
Damn. Dude, that guy's pissed. That's why I don't send my kids to public school. This parent outrage is only the tip of the iceberg. Wait to see how violent these peaceful protests actually get. People are demanding schools that drag young kids into anti-ICE protests should get defunded for straight-up child abuse. These riots and protests turn violent fast. Zero taxpayer dollars for this garbage. Are you serious? School controversy exploding, citywide chaos, but Tom Homan has the receipts on what ICE operations actually accomplished. Listing some of the stats, displaying how immigration enforcement efforts have made Minneapolis safer.
Enforcement personnel, ICE and CBP, and
He just gave
other partner agencies are patriots.
He just gave a press briefing this morning.
And they've carried out their duties patriotically, with integrity, with professionalism and compassion. I've said this many times, these men and women don't hang their heart on the hook when they come to work. President Trump and I strongly stand with them in the critical work they do to prevent harmful or otherwise dangerous people from entering or remaining in this country. As part of the surge operation here, numerous criminal aliens have already been arrested. We've arrested 14 people who had homicide convictions, 139 people with sex-related offenses, 28 gang members. Correct me, 139 assault convictions, 87 sex offenses, 28 gang members have been arrested, just to name a few. We're taking a lot of bad people off the street. Everybody should be grateful to that. Who in their right mind would want these dangerous criminals walking around their communities? Everyone has a constitutional right to peacefully protest. President Trump and I, we completely support that. At the same time, professional law enforcement officers should and need to be able to perform their sworn duties without being harassed, impeded, or assaulted. I want anyone to report instances of alleged misconduct or wrongdoing. There's a way to report that. The Trump administration is taking violations of 18 U.S.C. 111, which is assaulting, impeding, interfering. We're taking that seriously. If you violate the law, you will be federally prosecuted. In the past month, 158 people have been arrested for violation of 111. 85 cases have been already accepted for prosecutions. The rest remain pending. We've had 9 indictments of those who raided the church, and additional cases are being worked. Additionally, I've been saying this for almost a year now. Hateful, extreme rhetoric against ICE personnel is completely unacceptable. Please stop. I said back in March of this year, if the hateful rhetoric didn't stop, I was afraid there would be bloodshed. And there has been. President Trump and I, Secretary Noem, none of us want to see any bloodshed. It is no doubt encouraging and inciting certain people to violate the law, wanting to harm and actually harm law enforcement, their families, is unacceptable.
The composure, man. He's so patient. But he's not just defending results. He's thanking Trump personally for backing his agents in the field. Here's what he had to say this morning.
Lastly, I'd like to thank President Trump for his steadfast leadership and commitment to law enforcement, public safety, and prosperity. I've said this many times. I've worked for 6 presidents and 10 administrations. When it comes to public safety, border security, immigration enforcement, no one's done it better than President Trump. His success is unprecedented. Later on today, Secretary Noem is having a press conference on our southern border, the most secure border in the history of this nation, because of the leadership of President Trump and the men and women over there wearing a green uniform. Most secure border in the history of this country, which means less children are dying making that journey, less women and children being sex trafficked, less fentanyl getting this country to kill our young people, less known suspected terrorists being released in this country. The most secure border in a lifetime gives us the strongest national security we've seen. You can't have strong national security without strong border security. I wish I could be at that press conference, but the president has called me here. I just had a small part in it. The reason we have the most secure border is because of President Trump's leadership and the men and women wearing the green uniform, which I once wore.
The success story continues, but Holman is about to reveal what his officers face on the ground every single day. A reporter asks, do you think this operation was a success?
Everything that you've mentioned here right now, do you think this operation was a success here in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think I just listed a bunch of people we took off the streets of the Twin Cities. So I think it was very effective as far as public safety goes. Was it a perfect operation? No. No. And I just told you, we created one unified chain of command, make sure everybody's on the same page, make sure we're deconflicting targets, and making sure we follow the rules. Now, I'm not saying anybody, I don't think anybody purposely didn't do something they should have done. I'm saying that I brought a different set of eyes on this. I've done this for a long time. We made this operation more streamlined, and we established a unified chain of command, so everybody knows what everybody's doing. And not that it wasn't current before, but we approved upon that. So in target enforcement operations, we go out there. There needs to be a plan, and I want to make sure everybody has a plan. But I'm not going to sit here and point finger at anybody that they failed. It was a great operation. We took a lot of public safety threats off the street.
One gets emotional about his agent's sacrifices. Now he's got a direct message for the Minneapolis obstructors.
I have directed target enforcement operations, and we'll hold our officers to the highest standards. These are professionals. Again, I wish every one of you could put that gun on your hip, put that Kevlar vest on, go out there and put up where they put up with. Considering the hate, the rhetoric, the attacks, I think they performed remarkably, and I'm proud of them. We came here, President Trump sent me here. I didn't ask to come here. President Trump sent me here to help de-escalate what was going on. We're not surrendering our mission. We're not walking away from our mission. We're just making this more effective and more smart. This is smart law enforcement. Smart law enforcement makes it safer.
Holman calls out the roadblock lunatics, but the White House press secretary is about to drop some inconvenient truth about Obama's revelations. Listen to this.
I was away to wear the roadblocks yesterday. I called the chief of police, and he went and disbanded them after I got off the phone with him. He has promised to take enforcement action. It's illegal. You can't do that. And again, a message to those folks, what are you doing? You really think you're going to stop an ICE and CBP from doing the job? It's a joke. Only people you're hurting is your own community who wants to go and get groceries, pick up the dry cleaning, or go to work, whatever. You're just hindering them. Stop. Just stop.
Setting up frickin' roadblocks. The administration firing back at the Democrat hypocrisy, but Caroline Leavitt's about to absolutely destroy the celebrity virtue signalers
I think it's incredibly irresponsible for elected Democrats to refer to ICE agents and Border Patrol agents who have their jobs, by the way, because of the laws that were enacted and passed by the United States Congress. These are legitimate law enforcement organizations that rest within the Department of Homeland Security that have been enforcing our nation's border and our nation's immigration laws for years. I didn't hear Chuck Schumer or Democrats speaking that way of ICE agents under President Barack Obama, who deported hundreds of thousands of criminal illegal aliens from our country. That's all President Trump, Secretary Noem, and this entire administration are seeking to do. Targeted law enforcement operations of illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws, especially those who have committed heinous acts of violence against the American people. And it is a mandate that the president was elected upon to secure our homeland and to carry out these deportations. And it's something he will never waver in his commitment in, because why? A country without borders, a country without laws will cease to be a country at all. Now, there can be policy discussions and debates about how those tactics are enforced. And I know Congress will be having those discussions in the coming days. But as far as the underlying principle of enforcing our nation's laws and protecting our border, that is something this president will never waver on, because he knows it's what the American people elected him to do.
Amen. I love her, man. She torches the elite, but we're getting word something much bigger is happening behind the scenes in Minneapolis. Dropping bombs on celebrities who advocate for illegal aliens instead of backing law enforcement.
Rodriguez made, and she has kept, and we expect her to continue to keep.
Does the president welcome? Is the administration still expecting ICE agents during the Super Bowl? And what are the comments from President Donald Trump regarding what Bad Bunny said during the Grammy Awards, ICE out?
Mm-hmm. I have not spoken with ICE or the Department of Homeland Security or Secretary Noem with respect to enforcement at the Super Bowl, so I don't want to speak on a topic that I don't have knowledge on. I'm sorry, but I would defer you to them. I'm sorry?
On the statements of Bad Bunny saying ICE out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's very ironic and frankly sad to see celebrities who live in gated communities with private security, with millions of dollars to spend protecting themselves, trying to just demonize, law enforcement, public servants who work for the United States government to enforce our nation's laws. And you didn't hear this same type of uproar from celebrities in Hollywood when the previous administration allowed an invasion of our nation's borders and allowed innocent women and girls like Jocelyn Nungaray and Laken Riley to be killed and raped and murdered at the hands of people who should have never been in our country in the first place. And now you have law enforcement who are simply trying to do their jobs to remove violent predators like those who took the lives of innocent Americans. There was no uproar from Hollywood and the elitist crowd at the Grammys then, but there is now, and I think that speaks to the unfortunate irony that we're seeing in Hollywood.
I talk about the Clintons. Sí.
I'm sorry?
Go on. Sorry.
Okay.
President Trump approval rating.
Now the deputy AG revealing the ICE operation uncovered a massive fraud network. I'm waiting to see how unhinged Democrats are getting. Laura Ingraham. Todd Blanche says anti-ICE chaos in Minneapolis is cover for massive underground fraud network that we've been tracking here.
Here with me is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Todd, you just heard Jorge Ventura say that they're stopping vehicles. They're asking for IDs if they're affiliated with ICE. Isn't that actively impeding another civil liberties for free association?
Yes, and this is exactly the problem. As he said, and I'm sure it's true, not a local cop in sight. And again, this is what's happening all over Minneapolis. You have this effort by local leadership to just say, we don't care, we're going to let all this happen, and we don't care if ICE officers have their fingers bit off, we don't care if there's protests going on that are actually turned into riots, we don't care about that. And it's horrible, and we've been pounding the pavement, don't do this. President Trump said, he talked to the governor, he talked to the mayor, please change your tactics, and we really need them to do that, or we're not going to fix this problem.
Now, these left-wing groups that have formed a kind of unholy alliance, a lot of them have different goals, but they formed an alliance to work together here, to drive ICE out, to change the narrative, to make Trump look bad and you guys look bad. Is there any progress with untangling that funding and exposing it and perhaps prosecuting?
We do have progress, and we have several ongoing investigations. And remember what was happening in December, Laura. We had a massive fraud going on all through Minneapolis, all through Minnesota, and suddenly it turned. It turned almost on a dime, and it became suddenly all about ICE, all about getting ICE out and how horrible ICE was doing. But really what we have here is a massive underground fraud network operating in Minneapolis, and we had a very strong pushback when we raised our hands and said stop. And so, yes, we have multiple investigations going on. We sent prosecutors from Maine Justice. We sent prosecutors from other U.S. attorneys' offices all over the country. And we're making progress every day.
Making progress every single day. Well, federal investigations expand. One Democrat congresswoman wants to impeach the DHS secretary. Protesters are doing something even more disturbing. Democrat Congresswoman Representative Teresa LF wants to impeach Secretary Noem, who just led the Department of Homeland Security through its most successful year ever, saving countless American lives by removing droves of hardened criminals from our communities. Deranged, Rapid Response 47 says.
If Kristi Noem won't go on her own, if President Trump doesn't tell her to step down, Democrats in Congress, we will impeach Kristi Noem.
Good luck.
No must go. No must go.
Good luck.
No must go. No must go. Okay, let's say it in Spanish. No mas Noem. No mas Noem.
Oh, wow.
No mas Noem.
No mas. Really? Unbelievable. The impeachment threats escalate as protesters literally running license plates at illegal checkpoints, but Democrats openly inciting violence. ICE protesters confirm Minneapolis law enforcement is allowing them to stop vehicles and run their plates at their blockades. Daily Caller confirms the blockades in Minneapolis are being used as license plate checks. ICE protesters stopping all vehicles.
South Minneapolis, we just actually spoke to some of the individuals, if you want to just check out here, wearing the kind of black bloc covering their faces. They have this kind of blockade here where they're stopping some vehicles. Actually, Eric, if you could point down there, they're actually stopping this vehicle and they check the out-of-state plates just to see if they're ICE. And what's interesting is just moments ago, down there, we have an Uber driver. He's from Somalia. He's clearly not ICE. And they said that in their database that vehicle was popping up as an ICE vehicle. So we were questioning them about this database that they're using. Obviously, there's some type of network or communication. According to them, local law enforcement hasn't even came in and stopped. So Eric, just kind of shoot some of this and check it out. They're on the phones. I guess they were checking the license plate. We heard in their walkie-talkie that the license plate that they ran is not ICE, but you can see they're on their walkie-talkie kind of talking. We want to find out a little bit more about the database, but they don't want to answer our questions. So
freaking real.
This is the situation right now here in South Minneapolis. It's called like a blockade. Hey, how you doing? Just talk to me a little bit about this database, because we just ran our Somali Uber driver's license plate. I mean, you guys did run his license plate without his permission. Just talking about the database a little bit, you know? So, this is the scene right now in South Minneapolis, 32nd Street here on Cedar Avenue. You can't have saw me, dude.
Get in the fucking car.
You can't.
Get in the fucking car, man.
Go away. So they're assaulting me and my photojournalist. Got it all on video. They actually tried to steal my phone, but unsuccessful. And you're gonna get blasted all over the internet, buddy.
Assaulting Jorge Ventura, too. License plate checks by protesters pale in comparison to what Jerry Nadler just said about shooting federal agents. Democrats now claim it's okay to shoot ICE agents because they wear masks.
Solve our balanced budget problems by simply repealing the taxes, the tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires enacted over the last 10 years. But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. the attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. But we see people being shot for what? For driving a car? We see people, we see the ICE goons break into people's homes without a warrant. We see them drag out a man, an American citizen, in his underwear without even permitting him in the snow, without even permitting him to get dressed. This is the major problem we have today, along with the attack on our elections. We saw last week.
The attack on our elections. Yeah. Jerry Nadler's shooting comments reached peak insanity, but ICE agents are fighting back with body cameras to expose the truth. Secretary Noem is on the ground.
As far as the actual body cams themselves, Secretary Noem is on the ground frequently with our men and women of DHS law enforcement, and they're asking for those body cams. They know that there's a highly coordinated campaign of violence against our law enforcement. These agitators are using different tactics to provoke our law enforcement and then take it, selectively clip, edit, and make it go viral. We're seeing that constantly, so this is going to be great transparency for the American people. I won't get ahead of the White House as far as on those negotiations, but I do think as far as those administrative warrants, there's a mass campaign of misinformation as far as what's going on. Whenever an administrative warrant is used, our law enforcement, there's a final deportation order for that illegal alien, so they have had full due process as well as there's probable cause. So those are very much lawful. They were used in past administrations, including the Obama administration. So there's some political gamesmanship going on there as far as administrative warrants, which Congress and the U.S. Constitution recognizes.
Body cameras will capture the agitators' tactics, but the cultural impact is spreading to the most unexpected places. Kids on Roblox. Your kids play that? Yeah, we had to stop ours. Conducting immigration raids. Huh. Look at this. Look at this. Playing Roblox with immigration raids. Oh my goodness. I need to see that again. Flashbangs. Kids are down going door to door on Roblox. You can't make this up. That's how far this is going, folks. From Roblox raids to real-world confrontations, the left mask is off as they hurl racist slurs against black agents. A black agent, ICE agent, is going viral after asking a leftist if they are a man, causing leftists around him to crash out and call the agent, "Oh my."
Energy, like we should rip people apart from their families.
Are you a man?
Wow. Wow, is that a question? Wow. Okay. How do you feel about ripping people from their families? Does that feel good?
Fucking house nigga in here. Sir, I need to move. Fucking house nigga, where's you put the fucking KKK? What the fuck's wrong with you people?
Why are you calling a woman a man?
Sir,
I mean, what kind of a guy does that?
He's fucking house nigga, bitch.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a tolerant left for you. The racist attacks against black agents show the left's true colors, but patriots across America are fighting back with their own message. Some patriot purchased a pro-ICE billboard in San Francisco ahead of the Super Bowl, declaring them the Defensive Player of the Year, and it's triggering all the libs. It made me sick to my stomach.
New digital billboard at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco is evoking mixed reactions.
It made me sick to my stomach.
It's an ad that shows support for ICE.
They have a job to do, too. That's it. You know, I don't have a problem with them.
The billboard reads, Defensive Player of the Year, ICE. A group that calls itself American Sovereignty is behind the billboard. We tried to reach out to them to learn more about their motivation, but have not been able to reach anyone.
I'm worried for my neighbors. I'm worried for what is happening. and I'm worried to see it escalating here.
With the Super Bowl just days away, these concerned community members say they're doing something every day to get their message out.
Oh, you got to love it, right? Tom Homan put it perfectly. You really think you're going to stop ICE from doing their job? It's a joke. The only people you're hurting is your own community. The left's desperation is showing. And now we know why. They're not just protecting illegal aliens, they're protecting criminal fraud networks worth millions. I should say billions. See, this is exactly what winning looks like, folks. President Trump and Tom Homan promised to restore law and order, and now the criminals are panicking so hard they're setting up illegal roadblocks and calling for violence against federal agents. Secretary Noem is leading DHS through its most successful year ever, removing dangerous criminals from our streets while Democrats scream about impeachment. The swamp is fighting back because they know their time is up. You see, Trump's policies are working. Our communities are getting safer, and the establishment can't stand it. Do you think these Minneapolis protesters should be arrested for impersonating law enforcement and obstructing federal agents? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, check out the Next News merch shop for gear that shows you stand with law enforcement and President Trump's America First agenda. So as we wrap up today's Raw feed, the pattern becomes crystal clear. We open with the Washington Post hemorrhaging over 300 employees in mass layoffs. Another legacy media dinosaur collapsing under the weight of years spent peddling lies instead of reporting truth. The American people have rejected their propaganda, and now these outlets are paying the ultimate price: irrelevance. Meanwhile, President Trump is delivering exactly what he promised. His administration just launched the Strategic Critical Minerals Reserve through the Export-Import Bank President Jovanovic. A brilliant move that secures America's economic independence while generating returns for taxpayers. This is not just policy, it's visionary leadership that puts America first and breaks our dependence on hostile foreign powers who've held these resources hostage for decades. And the Epstein files continue exposing the rot at the heart of the global elite. Bill Gates scrambling to explain away evidence of his sordid activities, claiming he has no recollection of documented interactions. Lord Peter Mandelson, photographed in his underwear with young women, mysteriously receiving $75,000 from Epstein's network. These aren't coincidences. They're a systematic exposure of a corruption power structure that thought it was untouchable. And on Capitol Hill, the battle lines are drawn over the SAVE Act. 83% of Americans support basic voter ID requirements, yet establishment Republicans like John Thune are already signaling they won't fight for election integrity. Senator Tuberville dropping a bombshell claiming half a dozen sitting members of Congress weren't legitimately elected. And the evidence backs him up. And Bill's Rules coming in with the $1.99. Thank you, Bill, for that last-minute super chat. And Morgan Edwards dropping $5. I survived my surgery. My bruises have more colors than a sunset. Good to hear, Morgan. Good to hear. You see, the swamp creatures are terrified of honest elections because they know they can't win them. But perhaps the most telling is the violent opposition ICE agents face as they execute lawful immigration enforcement. Radical leftists are calling black ICE agents racial slurs, threatening to shoot federal law enforcement officers and creating chaos in our streets. You see, these aren't protesters. They are domestic terrorists trying to prevent the rule of law from being restored in America. And the contrast could not be starker. Trump is delivering results while his enemies deliver tantrums. Corporate media collapses while independent journalism thrives. Americans demand secure elections while politicians scheme to prevent them. And just like February 4th, 1789, when George Washington was unanimously elected as our first president, we're witnessing another pivotal moment in American history. Washington's vision of true independence, economic, political, and moral, is being realized through Trump's America First agenda. The establishment's desperate resistance only proves that we're winning. So before you go, hit the merch shop down below. Show your support for the Next News Network. Huge thanks to our Super Chat contributors and everyone submitting Rumble rants. You guys make the show possible. My friends, the truth is spreading. America is awakening, and our best days lie ahead. The swamp is draining whether they like it or not. I'm Gary Franchi. This has been The Raw Feed. Stay free.
It's the place to be. Live show. Come along.